I've not seen one sexual thing since I moved here in 4 years. I'm confused. Yeah. I don't even know where there's the nearest strip club. Never seen one.
Good.
A little confused.
Here's another question that sort of goes outside of some of those things, but I guess it has to do with the relationship here. So, how would you characterize the relationship between our town government and Little Elm and Denton County officials? And I guess I would start with you.
Okay. Well, I think our relationship with Little Elm is the way it's always been. We're two cities, we're next door, we do things together, right? We compete. If development comes in, we compete on some of it we don't. Things are with Little Elm. I think our relationship is fine with Little Elm. As far as Denton County goes, we don't have a good relationship with Denton County. I don't have a good relationship with Denton County. When I first met Hugh Coleman, the first meeting I ever had with Hugh Coleman, sat across the table from him. I was not a fan of his. I voted for the other person that was the incumbent. Hugh sat across the table from me and he said, "Mark, how many voters do you have in Lakewood Village?" I said, "I don't know, Hugh, about 300. He said, "Mark, why should I spend anything in Lakewood Village? You don't have enough voters for me to care about. It's a waste of money for me to spend money in Lakewood Village when I have Corinth and I have Little Elm. They have 50 times the number of voters." He's a politician. That makes perfect sense when you're a politician. Then he told me that our citizens, this town was worthless to him. That really made me mad. Okay, we're not worthless. If you look across the street, go down over there, that's the county around the corner. That's 100% Denton County's responsibility. It's not ours. Look at the dirt roads. Look at the crap over there. That's 100% his responsibility. So why doesn't he do anything? Because like us, we're worthless. We don't have any votes. We don't have enough for him to care about. Okay, so do we have good relations? No. He wrote us off 10 years ago. I think we're doing pretty damn good for being worthless. We got new concrete streets. They don't have them in Sunrise Bay, and that's county too. Well, I think we're doing real good for being worthless. We've expanded the water plant, the sewer plant, we've got new development coming in, we've got new concrete streets, we've got $400,000 in the bank, we're climbing with money. I think we're doing pretty darn good without any help from Denton County.
Thank you, sir. Same question. How would you characterize the relationship between our town government and Little Elm and Denton County officials?
Which, first off, David, the mayor of Little Elm's here, so if anyone wants to speak to him afterwards about our relationships, that'd probably be a good one to talk to. With Hugh Coleman, the county commissioner, and I urge everyone to call, of course, someone gives him his number, but I'm just saying, I urge everyone to call Hugh Coleman. I mean, all the conversations and meetings I've had with him, completely different than that. I mean, they will not meet with us without their city attorney present. That's what our relationship was with Denton County. And when you look at how much taxes we pay to Denton County, we should be utilizing their resources. I mean, we're paying there as much as we're paying here, a few cents difference, so, when you talk about that, it's important. And I mean, we can say all day long how important it is for us to say, I can do this with finance, I can do this. We have to live within there. I mean, it's like having bad neighbors. It makes a poison when you get in a development. We have to have those relationships. I mean, when it comes to the sexual oriented, I've never seen those in Little Elm, but I mean, when it comes to that, there's ways to protect ourselves. I mean, he even said there's ordinances that we can do when it comes to that stuff, which I'm getting off track back on that. But on the relationships, I mean, if you talk to Land Plan, if you talk to Eric Herrera, I mean, I can provide phone numbers to everyone. Don't take my word for this. Call. Don't have me sit up here and say this is how it is. I urge everyone to call all these people. I mean, we're talking about the biggest landowners in our town, their opinions of us. You're talking about Hugh Coleman, the county commissioner, their opinion of us. You're talking about Little Elm and their opinion of us. I mean, it's important what we do. So we have to do something. I'm out of town. So, yeah. So we need to rebuild. Everyone sees that on my signs. That's a big focus of mine. I want to rebuild those relationships so we can utilize those resources. On the water tower, I'd call Little Elm and ask them to send their engineers over and see if they could help us with the problem why it keeps breaking down on the weekends. you know, I'd use those resources with you. I'm probably out of time, so. Sorry if I just put you on blast.
See if I can combine these two questions here. This was really, both of these were written very similarly to both of you. Talking about outside of your, this must go to something else, but I'm not sure exactly where it's leading. But outside of your own main home, do you have any partnerships or financial interest with any contract business or anybody else that does business with the town or I guess with Lakewood Village? Do you have an outside interest that does business with the town or Lakewood Village?
So it starts with me, right?
Yes.
So, I do not. I just have the home that me and my family live in. So I think it's a conflict of interest if you own other properties and you're doing development deals and all that stuff, working with builders. You know, every city I deal with Dallas and all that stuff, you can't do stuff for city officials. You know, if I'm doing stuff for City of Dallas, I can't, you know, do stuff. I mean, I think there's a lack of what is standard in ethics and all that stuff, and I could go on a whole rant on ethics, but, you know, when it comes to properties, if you're developing in here, I don't think you should be in a position sitting up here trying to protect our money when you have your own interests. And I'm just saying, I don't think you should be able to do that if you could have influence on your own. Just like the whole building inspector deal, if I can do future developments to go to certain properties to do things like that, I don't think that's correct.
Okay.
So, but the answer to the question, I have only my home, yes.
Yeah, just, that's the only thing you own, you don't have any other,
No, sir.
you don't do any other business here. Okay, thank you. I guess Dr. Borges, same question?
Okay, you know, this question reminds me of when I was elected way back when. One of the people came out and said, you have a conflict of interest. You're not allowed to vote on something on the city council because you have land in Lakewood Village. Well, it's going to be kind of hard then. What, we have to bring in people from Oklahoma to be on the city council? So it's you know, it's part of this kind of crazy thing that somehow, you know, I own an empty lot in Lakewood Village. So do a lot of people. They own an empty lot in Lakewood Village. So what's actually good for Lakewood Village and good for you is actually kind of good for me. That's not a conflict of interest. That's called being in the government. That's what you're supposed to do. If Texas does well, the governor will do well. He's in Texas. Okay, so this is kind of this warped, twisted thing that somehow that because I own an empty lot, I've got a conflict of interest about developing the city. I don't know what that is. Look, unfortunately for the people who live on Cary, this is very unfortunate for you. I don't put myself first. Your road is probably the worst in the city because I didn't pave it. I didn't put Cary first. I put this part of town first. Okay, this was the oldest part. This is the part that needed it. I didn't pave my own street. I'm the first mayor in many years to not pave his own street. I didn't do that. Okay? So I don't have any conflict of interest. I don't have any business dealings with anybody that does Lakewood Village. I don't secretly, one rumor was I was land planning. It was great. I wish I did. I wish I owned the 8 acres. Okay? So it's just part of some of this kind of, you know, silly stuff that goes on. I have no interest in any business which does anything with Lakewood Village. Anything. Nothing. Okay? Nothing. Okay? Absolutely not. Next. Hey,
Nice
sir. There you go.
Nice done. Let me just say right now that all of these questions seem to have to do with some personal business that you gentlemen have, that I don't know that if any of this stuff has to do with being mayor of this town. And you guys ask all these questions, so just be mad at me. But I don't see that as far as some of these questions have to do with these gentlemen's qualifications to be mayor. And so I'm so pleased. I don't think either one of you will have to.
Which I have nothing to hide, so if you want to ask me anything, I'm good with it. So. you
Well,
can
I
randomly select.
understand that. Actually, I think both of you guys don't have anything to hide as far as that, as I've ever known. But they simply don't have anything to do with running for mayor specifically. You know, if you guys want to go out in the front lawn and have that discussion, I'm sure we'll all buy a car.
We share front lawn, so we're good.
Oh, that's right, you do. Actually, you can do that just about any time you want to. That's great. We don't have to do it here. This actually has to do with, again, with development. And it has to do with really how you communicate with the citizens on a monthly or every other month basis. As far as development, you've been doing that. You would do that if you were elected mayor. How would you communicate on a regular basis with with your constituents about development and letting people know about what's going on as far as development around the town?
Yeah.
Yes,
Communication is really interesting. I don't know how many of you were here back in 2007. So 2007, what happened was land plan development came in with a development. It was half-acre lots. It was gated. It had HOA. It was a lot of craziness that was absolutely not suitable. The problem was, back then, if you went to the city secretary trying to get information, they'd tell you no. You say, well, I'm doing an open records request. They say no. They just flat out tell you no. So there was no information. No one said anything. So people actually went door to door to get people. We had a council meeting where people were standing in the windows. This room was packed. You couldn't squeeze in the doors. You couldn't get another person in. The whole room was packed wall to wall. It's because nobody would tell the citizens what it was. And there was a development coming in that the city council was going to look at that nobody knew what it was. They came in and got about 5 minutes into their speech about what this development was going to be, and it was absolute chaos. They got shouted down. The whole town revolted over this development. I was here. I was actually in the building. I was one of the few ones to get in. Okay. I lived through that. That's why in that mayor's letter, I'm constantly trying to set the expectations. This is what people are doing. Here's what the developers have come in. There's 50-foot wide lots going in across the street up there. That ain't us. This is the stuff that's out there. I'm constantly trying to get you to set your expectations. So when they come in, nobody's going to say, holy crap, when did this happen? No, I put things in 4 or 5 mayor's letters in a row to try and get everybody on board. Not necessarily with all the nuts and bolts, but at least to know it's coming. Be prepared. Let's start getting ready for a lot of the stuff that's going to happen. It's been 25 years since a development happened in Lakewood Village. Nobody's here that was here 25 years. Maybe one person was here 25 years ago. So we're all going to go through this for the first time. And I want everybody to know what's coming. I really want you to know. That's why I invented this mayor's letter the way I do it. The old one used to just be 3 or 4 bullets. And Mike did it for a couple of years. Just bullet points. 1 page, 5 or 6 bullets. So this mayor's letter is trying to get that information all out to you. But I agree with Brent. You should come to council meetings. I think we both agree. That's very good for everybody.
thank you. Mayor's letter, should you be elected?
Is it mayor's letter or is it about development? Just tell it about development.
Communication.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I mean, on the letters and all that, I mean, if you look 2 years ago before the last election, it said exactly what it said right before this election. Land plan's coming, we're 2 years later, and of course, just right before the election, it's, you know, it's coming. So, and again, I urge everyone to not take my voice on this. Call Land Plan, call Eric Herrera, I mean, their signs are all, you know, call everyone and see what's out there. But education of what's going on should be done during the council meetings, you know, right after budget. The next most important thing that we have after utilities and all that stuff is development. So, I mean, keeping everyone educated on what it is, but again, I think the residents should have a voice in what comes in and not just council and the mayor. I'll be short on that.
Thank you. We only have about 7 or 8 more minutes left. I wanted to give you guys certainly an opportunity to wrap up in your thoughts that you have. So, shall I just start all over again? And
I open.
No.
So you want to? You
I
want
think
to?
Brent opens, so he should get the cards.
Okay. Very good, sir.
Is it
Then you
2
just,
minutes?
I think this is 3 minutes actually.
Bring it back.
Starting now.
Okay, well, you know, again, I appreciate everybody coming out and trying to learn what's going on. It is very important. We are going to have development coming. I think everybody knows what's all around us. The key thing is, what do we want it to be? Okay, I do not want commercial. I do not want it. I absolutely will do everything in my power as mayor to not have commercial in this town. We don't need it. Let's be different. Let's let, with all due respect, David, you can have Mattress World. You can have that stuff over there. I think that's great. It's 4 minutes away. I think we're all great to patronize Little Elm and all the stuff they have there. That's terrific. Okay? We don't need that here. We just don't need it. The development that's coming in, these developments, are going to be all residential. That's what the zoning is. We've already put it in place. You can't put in commercial. In order to get commercial in this city, again, I helped write that ordinance. You have to get 5 of the 6 council members to agree to sell out to commercial. You got to get 5 out of 6. Okay? We did that deliberately to make sure we don't want commercial here. We're going to stay a quiet town. We don't need to see dumpsters when you pull in. You don't need to tell people turn left when you get to the 50% off all mattresses sign. Okay? Let's just turn into a beautiful entrance with waterfalls and fountains and come into Lakewood Village, all residential. Let's just do that. Okay? That's my vision of the town. Everything's set. We passed ordinance on impact fees. We've already done it. We've already expanded the system, which means all that money's going to come into us for stuff we've already done. They're reimbursing us for all that. We've already teed it up over the last several years. Most towns have to sell out at some point. They got to make a deal with the devil because of financial problems. Something comes up, something fails terribly, a big water line breaks. They have some sort of horrible event, and they've got to sell out. They've got to let in apartments, some big, huge 4-story apartment thing, or they've got to let in a big commercial strip. Most towns, at some point, have to sell out, okay? When they're small, they reach a point where critical mass comes in. They don't have the finances. They're not big enough. Some developer comes in and wants to do something that the town doesn't like, but they need money. I've spent a decade putting us in a position where we can say no to everything. We don't need to have any development in Lakewood Village. We can say no to land plan, leave the woods. We can do that. We could do that. But that means we're not going to get more things. We're not going to get a park. We're not going to get trails. We're not going to potentially have athletic fields over there. Okay? We're not going to get a lot of positives if we tell them to go away. So we don't have to do it, but that's our thing. This is our destiny to do this. It's now. We're set up to do it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
It's yours
Yes, sir.
right now.
Perfect. Well, and just to clarify on the commercial and all that stuff, there's commercial across the street. You know, so I'm telling them where you turn, you're going to turn at the storage building to get into our entrance anyways. You know, so when it comes to that, and that's down the road. So just so everyone clarifies, I'm not sitting up here saying I want a bunch of commercial and all that stuff. I'm saying as we work with the developers, if that makes sense, If it financially makes sense to the city, then we'll do that. So just to clarify on that part, you know, on all the parks and all that stuff, I mean, extra parks, add maintenance and all that stuff, let's do what we can to get the city in a good financial state. If we have $400,000 in the bank right now, you know, we should be doing other things to fix the current issues we have, so we're not fixing the water system, you know, on the weekend. And if the water system's breaking with the amount of homes we have now, is that gonna help us when we bring a development in? So there's lots of things. Again, I just go back to, let's rebuild the relationships, let's utilize our resources with Denton County, with Little Elm, you know, let's work with the developers to see what they want to bring in, you know, with all of our voices counting, not just one of ours or the council, with all of our voices counting. You know, I mean, I ask y'all to look at me. I mean, I agree, he's done some great things on this, but it's time for a change. It's time for some fresh new stuff. It's time for some new views. It's time to, you know, to rebuild some of the stuff that we really need to build. I mean, we need to put our focus inside this city. I mean, we didn't talk about the 180,000 legal bills we spent outside of the city limits this last year. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we didn't talk about. We've got to fix that. We've got to fix our spending. We've got to start abiding by the law. We're doing a lot of things outside of the law. We're not above the law. Our liability, I mean, we've budgeted $60,000 this year for legal fees and all that stuff. We shouldn't, in a town where we're bringing in $220,000 in taxes, in property taxes, we shouldn't be spending $60,000 on legal. We shouldn't be doing enough wrong stuff that we have to worry about that stuff. So all I ask is if y'all give me the opportunity to come in here, I think I can work with the team of all the residents, the current council and all that stuff and fix the situation. With them?
Very good. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you in the audience for being here today, and actually for being such a great audience, very respectful, very quiet, attentive, and that's a tribute to the town that we live in, and what a good group of residents live here. So thank you very much for that. Clearly, you're all very interested in the future of our town, and that's how we grow and develop and become better, right? And finally, I want to thank both of these individuals. Clearly, it takes a special kind of person that's willing to step away from much of their business life and their family life and commit themselves to working for free to make this town a better place for all of us to live.
This is for free?
Yes, and we thank you very much for it.